Happy Halloween, everyone. This is an edited down version of a live stream. You can find the whole thing linked in the description below. Enjoy. Let's begin. I'm ranking spooky A Song of Ice and Fire characters. Every single character here was recommended by my patrons, whether they belong here or not. I had a character already drawn for every single one who's mentioned, with the exception of Patchface. So I cooked up this this monstrosity in the span of a couple minutes, so I do apologize, but let's begin with the historical characters. Starting with this fella. Can you get a Discord link? Bro, you gotta be a patron. So, Balthazar Bolton, he's a historical Bolton from years and years ago. Back in the day, one of the Stark kings declared war on the Three Sisters, the three islands off the northern coast of the Vale, and they engaged in a bunch of pillaging of the many northern lords who took part in this invasion. One was Balthazar Bolton, who supposedly made an infamous pink pavilion, which is to say a giant tent made from the skin of, I think, like 100 sistermen. The Boltons already have a horror shtick going on. They've got a kind of a gothic horror vibe. They flay people, they torture people, they've got creepy eyes, and like Roos is a vampire and Ramsay's like a serial killer. Ramsay's like Saddam Hussein's son. Balthazar fits into this, fits into that dynamic. We don't know enough about him. He's just a vague historical character, but creating a pavilion from the skin of 100 civilians, that's very creepy. That's very, very creepy. I'm gonna put him in Oh yes, let me explain the tiers, I guess. Spooky is like weird, creepy, spooky. You know what spooky is, Halloween vibes. Is more like, oh, this guy's a psycho, that's horrible, it's not quite spooky enough. You know, flaying people is evil, but there needs to be something a bit weird and maybe esoteric and maybe magical behind it. Boo is just like, you know, a nice simple boo. What you gonna do about it? Boo. Yeah, a little bit scary, but not super scary. Meh is just like, not scary. And then Homelander Cinema Face is just like, why are you even in this list? I only added you because a patron added you. Next up, we have Visenya Targaryen, the sister wife of Aegon the Conqueror. Quite a spooky lass. So the reason she's here is that she was allegedly something of a sinister sorceress. She apparently dabbled in alchemy and potions, and there's all kind of rumours that maybe Aegon the Conqueror was infertile, and that Maegor the Cruel is like a test tube baby, and that Visenya used some kind of dark magic in order to get pregnant with Maegor the Cruel. There are rumours that maybe she poisoned Aenys the First so that her son could take the throne. There are rumours that maybe she actually resurrected Maegor, and Maegor fell into a coma following his trial by Seven, and when he came back he was even more monstrous than before, so perhaps Visenya literally resurrected him. Like maybe he's literally like a white king. Well, I guess they're all white kings, aren't they? A zombie king. So Visenya, again, it's all rumours, nothing's confirmed, and she's not as overtly witchy as some of the other historical sorceresses, but there is definitely something creepy about this. The power-hungry mother of a tyrant king potentially resurrecting him, maybe even growing him in a test tube. I'm gonna put her under next up we have Maegor. So Maegor's basically here because he is, if everything I've said about Visenya is in fact true and not just anti-Maegor propaganda, then of course Maegor is inherently kind of spooky, right? He himself was I mean, nothing's more spooky than IVF. And then the whole resurrection thing, if he's literally a zombie king, woo, that's kind of creepy. That's kind of weird. He himself isn't really personally that spooky. He's not really involved in sorcery. But if he is like a sort of a creation, a concoction of Visenya, I think that is kind of ooh. But I'm gonna put him under boo because like there's a bit of creepiness there, but that's not really his vibe. It's more tyrannical king. What is more spooky, however, I would say, is probably wait, no, that's not Alice Rivers. My bad. That's Tyanna of the Tower. That's Tyanna of the Tower. She's the third wife and longtime mistress and advisor, I suppose, of Maegor the Cruel. One of the long list of mysterious foreign lovers of Targaryens throughout Fire and Blood. You've got Mysaria, the White Worm, for Daemon Targaryen. Oh, I guess Melisandre for Stannis also counts. Mysterious foreign advisor, witch, sorceress. Ooh. But yes, Tyanna of the Tower. All kind of rumours surrounding her. Well, we know for a fact that she was an advisor and a sort of involved in sort of torture and all kind of nasty stuff, but what makes her spooky is that she confessed to poisoning Maegor's wives, two of Maegor's wives, and causing them to have deformed stillborns. If it is true, then she was using horrific potions to mess with Maegor's wives, and very spooky. Not as spooky as some other witchy people. She's not that much of a witch, but there is definitely a mysterious, dark, sadistic, creepy vibe to her. I think I'm gonna go with I think I'm going to go with actually. That is a bit of a Next up, now this is Alice Rivers. Book Alice Rivers, not show Alice Rivers. They're kind of two different beasts. I'm not talking about the Hot D version. She's the Woods Witch of Harrenhal. Very mysterious. Some say that she's in her 40s, even though she looks immensely young. Other people think she's actually hundreds of years old. I believe Mushroom claims that she bathes in the blood of maidens or something like that to maintain her youth. There's all kind of theories that she used love potions to seduce Criston Cole when he was at Harrenhal, and to seduce Aemon Targaryen when he was in Harrenhal. And of course, spoilers for House of the Dragon, skip ahead by like 10 seconds. During the reign of Aegon III, when a member of the Kingsguard took a little expeditionary force to retake Harrenhal, what was his name? Sir Regis Groves, I believe, was leading this little party, and he was demanding that Alice give up Harrenhal. Apparently his head suddenly exploded. Now, there are people who say, well, that's because one of the archers or crossbowmen on the battlements of Harrenhal got a bit trigger happy and boom, arrow in the head, and maybe people misinterpreted it. Or maybe Alice Rivers muttered a spell, closed her fist, and the guy's head just exploded. Maybe she is a crazy witch. Or maybe she is just a MILF. Groves calls her a milk cow. I don't remember that part of Fire and Blood, does he? I'm not even going to comment on that. Right, so bathing in the blood of maidens to look young, using love potions, blowing up people's heads, that is very... And then the whole just aesthetic of this, like, common woods witch in the creepy castle of Harrenhal, I think, this pushes it into spooky. This is a Halloween character. If anyone's spooky, it's Alice Rivers. Right, what is next? Next up, we have the one, the only, Larys. I don't know why Larys is here necessarily. He's certainly... I was going to say he's creepy, but let's try and detach the show version from the book version. The book version is just ultra mysterious. You know, just for fun, if we should take that show theory from season 1 of Hot D, the rat theory. The idea that he's a warg, and he's basically warging the rats of the Red Keep and infiltrating nooks and crannies and going into bedrooms and going all around the castle to spy, and that's how he's learning all this information. That's how his spy network is a plague of rats. It's got nothing to do with the books. It's not even hinted at in the books. It's just in the show because there are lots of shots of rats, and Larys is of First Man blood, so he could be a skin changer. So people put 2 and 2 together, and it's a fun theory. But yeah, if we're going by book characters, I'll put him in meh, because yes, mysterious schemers are inherently kind of creepy, but not really spooky. So I'll put him there. What's next? All right, next up we have Brynden Rivers. Ooh, a tip. Thank you for the Streamlab donation from Julian Kerr. I said that very slowly just in case it was some kind of like pun, and I was like accidentally saying a slur or something. I don't think it is. I think I'm safe. Hey Haven, will Stoneheart be on this list? Stoneheart is a great... Because you tipped, I will add Stoneheart. That's obviously... Haven is real life Sweet Robin. Bro, I'm not real life Sweet Robin. I'm not a sickly guy. I'm healthy most of the time. I just happened to be sick for this week. And I'm not having epileptic fits. And I'm not gorging on a redhead... You know what? I'm not going to finish that sentence. Brynden Rivers, a.k.a. Bloodraven. Now, this is the epitome of spooky. He looks spooky, very pale. He's an albino, white hair, red eyes. Just thought I'd insult all the albinos out there. He's got a birthmark of a raven, and it all just adds to this weird, mysterious, creepy vibe. And that's who he is. He's quite a creepy guy. You know, he runs spy networks and he executes dissenters. He's very brutal, quite morally ambiguous. And of course, he's missing an eye too, so he gets a sexy eye patch and everything. Like, he is just a cool character. Yes, apparently he dabbles in the dark arts, right? He may be something of maybe he's a skin changer. He's certainly a green seer, as we find out later. In one of the Dunk and Egg stories, he full-on disguises himself as a plum, so he's a master of disguise. Apparently, potentially enchants his bows and the bows of the Raven's Teeth during the first Blackfire Rebellion, where a bunch of arrows rained down and it killed King Daemon I and his eldest 2 sons. And then, of course, I think I'm kind of burying the lead here. He's a tree. He's a creepy tree man. He's a creepy old man who's lived for hundreds of years in a tree, in a cave, working with the children of the forest. He's a skin changer. He's a green seer. He's teaching Bran in the ways of being a weirdo, and potentially wants King Bran to run his weirwood surveillance state or whatever is going to happen at the end of the books. I don't really know. Where's he going? Oh, spooky. He's going in spooky. So next up we have Shiera Seastar. So again, another historical sorceress. There's a lot of them. This is the sister, the half-sister / sometimes lover of Brynden Rivers, bastard daughter of Serenai of Lys and Aegon the Unworthy. She's pretty cool. Apparently dabbles in the dark arts to some extent. Rumours of love potions, I believe. Rumours of... Is she also accused of bathing in the blood of virgins or some shit? Not super spooky, not creepy, just kind of sorceressy. So that's kind of meh, because like magic alone isn't really, there has to be something about the aesthetics, something about the actions you take, the kind of magic you do. Okay, next up we have, this is King Daemon II Blackfire, who was thrown in by one of my patrons because, and I quote, "gay people are scary." I think I'm going to rank him in Homelander. He's going to the bottom here. Oh, man. Right, next up we have Danelle Lofston. Again, another weird, creepy, scary historical figure. So first off, this is going to be quite high, because first off, she's called Mad Danelle. Her sigil is a bat, which already brings up vampiric imagery, and it doesn't help that she was the Lady of Harrenhal, which itself is this sort of dark, twisted, almost gothic castle. Danelle, again, all the rumours, allegedly bathed in blood. Again, quite a few characters allegedly bathed in blood, but she's the big bathed in blood one. And there are all kind of rumours that, like, she had giant bats that flew throughout the kingdom and would steal children, and she'd bring them back and cook them up in a pot, although that was more of a kind of scary story to scare the kids, right? If you misbehave, Danelle's going to snatch you. But there are also rumours of her having feasts of flesh, right? That she just... basically, cannibal vampire lady who bathes in blood and has pet bats and stuff. Very weird, very spooky. I do believe she was involved in a failed uprising of some sort against King Maekar. We barely know anything about her, but yeah. God, what's his name? My mind's gone fully blank. Monstrous. Melees. Melees the Monstrous. He's not really spooky. I guess the only spooky element is that he has a baby face in his neck, I guess. He was, twins in the womb and then one consumes the other, but there's a bit of a conjoined thing going on. So he does just have, like, a head sticking out his neck, which is creepy and visually interesting. It's not really spooky, though. I put it in meh. Like, there's something going on there, but I don't know. But that's all the historical characters. That leads us to the main series. You draw all women with very large breasts. That's nice. Lady Stoneheart hasn't got big boobies, bro. What are you talking about? And thank you for the super chat from first name, last name, who says, Bloodstone Emperor on chart. Ooh, that does belong. I don't have a Bloodstone Emperor character. Do I? There's no way. No, of course I don't. Why am I even checking? Of course I fucking don't. Let me find some Bloodstone Emperor art. This is by Sanrixian. Cool, let's do this one. So, the Bloodstone Emperor, very mysterious guy, the final ruler of the great Empire of the Dawn, that very important piece of lore that will be instrumental to the ending of A Song of Ice and Fire, and isn't just random Elio and Linda lore. So, Bloodstone Emperor, quick browse through the Wiki of Ice and Fire page. Yes, the blood betrayal, where he usurped the throne, he usurped his sister's throne, he ushered in the Long Night, supposedly practiced torture, dark arts, necromancy, enslaved his own people, took a tiger woman for a wife, feasted on human flesh, cast down the true gods of Yiti to worship a black stone that fell from the sky. He may have been the first high priest of the sinister Church of Starry Wisdom. Okay, I think he kind of belongs in Spooky. This is one of those characters where you think, why did you relegate someone this insane to background lore? Why isn't this like a main guy? But he has been added. Thank you so much. Right, next up we have Melisandre. Again, another sexy sorceress. There's no they are bountiful in A Song of Ice and Fire and the histories. So Melisandre, yes, she is kind of creepy. She's all red. She wears red. She has a red ruby necklace. She's got red hair. She has red eyes. She's something of a zealot. She burns people at the stake for the sake of her religion. If we're going by show lore, very old woman looking young, and I do suspect that is in the books. I don't think that's a Benioff and Weiss original. I think that's a book thing. Classic, several hundred years old, looking young and beautiful. That's just inherently kind of weird and creepy. Talk about catfishing. And I think probably the spookiest thing of all, because, parlor tricks are one thing, but the spookiest thing has to be giving birth to shadow demon babies. Giving birth to weird assassins, shadow assassins. She's not as spooky as people like Bloodraven or Danelle, but she does belong in a big part of what makes people spooky is mystery. And she's not as mysterious as she is in the earlier books, because we do get the POV and dance, and we do get a tiny bit of insight into her, so... Or maybe she should go down to Boo. No, the shadow baby thing does she should be a bit higher. Next up, we have Mokoro. Mokoro was added to the list by my patrons. He's is he spooky? He's a red priest. He seems quite fervent in his faith. He gets visions, which are quite interesting. I wouldn't say he's spooky, though. He's mysterious and he's zealous, but he's not... We'll put him in boo. We'll be kind of... No, I'll put him in meh. No, I am going to put him in meh. Payat Pri. Right, Payat Pri. Yes, very creepy. Pale skin, blue lips, because, of course, he's one of the warlocks of Karth. He's kind of the head warlock of Karth. He works with the Undying Ones, who are kind of semi-immortal wizard people. Just a weird, creepy warlock. We don't know that much about him. He looks creepy. He acts creepy. There's just a weird vibe. I'm going to put him in because we need a bit more information for him to be spooky, but at the moment he is kind of Rorge. My boy Rorge. Yes, Rorge was added. So Rorge is a nice change of pace because most of these people are inherently magical. Rorge is just like a psychopath. Rorge is just a murderous, rapey psycho. He doesn't have a nose. That's kind of creepy. He's monstrous and terrifying. I don't know if he's spooky. It feels weird putting him in meh, but he doesn't have the spooky, creepy Halloween vibe. He's just kind of... He's like Melees, where visually there's a spooky thing going on and his personality is vile, but like, I don't know, I don't think he's... You know what, I'm gonna actually upgrade Melees and Rorge to boo. There we go. Because we like to judge a book by its cover. Right, and then of course there's his companion, his compatriot, Biter, the only... one of the few Haven characters with a mouth, because that's kind of a big deal. He is actually creepier than Rorge. Because Rorge is just like a thug. But Biter, the backstory is that Rorge raised Biter as like a child in the fighting pits, which we learn about from Fire and Blood, right? Aegon allegedly visited one. And did visit one in Hot D. Which was really fucking stupid, but there we go. But yeah, so he's literally raised as like a feral child to just fight and kill. Teeth are filed. Quite depressing, to be honest. And he likes to eat people. He likes to eat faces. He likes to eat titties. He is terrifying. No, he's not a squisher, but yes, he is just a horrific, feral, bloated man. Kind of looks like Judge Holden from Blood Meridian. He's a cannibal. Very creepy, very spooky. Doesn't quite go up into the esoteric, but he does belong in because he is just a nasty guy. It would have been cool to have him in the show, to be honest. So we're kind of moving away from Essosi sorcerers and sorceresses, and now we're moving towards Westerosi physicians, right? Qyburn studied at the Citadel, got expelled for reasons unknown, kind of a creepy guy, full on probably a necromancer. He does all kind of weird experiments on women in the cells of the Red Keep, and there's lots of screaming going on. And of course, he basically resurrects the Mountain. He resurrects Gregor Clegane, who's dying of a incurable, poison that's ravaging his body. He's just a necromancer. What can I say? He's a creepy necromancer who does human experiments. It's a classic trope in fiction that necromancy is sort of an inherently forbidden form of magic. There's something about the way it violates nature and the natural order of things, which is... The idea is that death is part of life and grief is part of life, and you have to accept that, and you can't. But anyway, yes. Dark necromancy, experiments and torture. Qyburn is going in. I'm going to go I'm not going to go full on spooky. I'm going to go But I think what does belong in spooky is his experiment. Frankenstein's in Frankenstein's monster is going to go in spooky because he's just a resurrected, lumbering giant of a man. We don't know enough about him because he only really comes into play near the end of Dance. But yeah, he could be a zombie. As I talk about in my mountain video, he could be a horrific zombie. He could have like the head, because his skull was sent to Dawn as proof he'd been executed, so he could have someone else's head. He could have like the head of a dwarf, one of the many dwarf heads given to Cersei by people claiming to have killed Tyrion because they want that bounty, they want that money. So he could be a big lumbering zombie with a tiny dwarf head, or he could have no head at all, which I've mentioned this before, I'm not a big fan of that theory. I'm not a fan of the Headless Mountain theory. I actually think I think it's less creepy and more goofy, the idea that he doesn't have a head. I don't know, I'd rather he had someone else's head, and I was like, that's a bit more body horror for me. That's more effective body horror than no head. But anyway, he's going in spooky. Just a full-on zombie. As is Lady Stoneheart. As is Beric. But to be fair, Beric I don't think was added to the Patreon list. Honestly, I might do Lady Stoneheart now on the subject of zombies. Yes, Lady Stoneheart, she is inherently creepy. She's a bloated corpse for like 4 days before she got resurrected, so she looks all weird and green and gross, and she's got like the scars on her face from when she lost her mind and scratched at herself. She's got brittle white hair. She can barely speak because her throat was slashed, so she has to like squeeze the slit. I wish I hadn't said that sentence. She got to squeeze the gash. Oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that either. She got to squeeze the wound so that she can speak, and even then you can barely hear her. And then personality wise, she is like vengeance personified. She just wants destruction, and she's very bitter and angry, and she's not Catelyn at all. She's a brand new character in my head. I never see her as Catelyn, I see her as a new character. Spookier, if anything. Right, next up we have Euron. Oh boy. Is he spooky? Hell yes, he's spooky. Sorcerer King, crazy man. Pale, he's got the blue lips. I mean, just the Forsaken. He's a kinslayer. His rhetoric is deicidal. He kind of believes he's a god. He's like, fuck the gods. I want to kill the gods. I want to rule everything. He's definitely involved in weird magic shit. He has like old Valyrian armor and a terrifying horn that apparently can control dragons. There is something slightly eldritch about his vibe. It's funny. Yeah, I was saying this to my patrons the other day, that there's so much amazing art of Euron as this weird fucking creepy guy. And then I was looking at some A Song of Ice and Fire miniatures by Dark Sword Miniatures, which were like actively approved by George R. R. Martin, right? And he has a comment for all of them. And for the Euron miniature, let me find the quote. Best version of him I've seen. Better than any of the paintings, drawings, digital art, etc. So this is the version of Euron George really likes and thinks is better than all the art that exists. There we go. This motherfucker. This Jack Sparrow ass. This fucking, like... This Pirates of the Caribbean looking side character. How is that? That is not Euron's vibe in the slightest. That's just like a rock star. That definitely doesn't capture the creepiness of Euron at all. Without the Forsaken chapter, if we're just going by what's technically canon, he's probably in A, or maybe even Boo. But because of the Forsaken chapter, I do think Euron needs to go in spooky. I have not dwelling on him too long because I have talked about Euron to death. Roose, the Roose is loose. We're wrapping up the stream. Excuse me. This is a great live stream, just me fucking dying like, bleh. Giles Rosby up in here. Roose Bolton. Oh, I'll move out of the way of the chat, my bad. Roose Bolton, the Leech Lord himself, need I say more? He is the #1 vampire for Song of Ice and Fire. He's pale, he's soft-spoken, he's just kind of creepy. He's described as having short, strong fingers. I would have preferred if he had long, slender fingers. I think that fits his vibe more. Yeah, he's a Bolton, probably takes part in flaying. He's treacherous, he's murderous, he's a psychopath. The Leeches is the creepiest thing that's canon. The fact that to get like the bad humors, the bad blood out of him. He uses leeches to drain his blood, and because of that he's super pale all the time. Just inherently weird and creepy. In terms of what we don't know for certain, he could be a skin changer. He has an ancestor, and he has a son, and when his son grows up, he kills his son and he takes the son's skin, and so he's just an immortal vampire living through not even generations, just like all of his sons living in the body of it. The whole bolt-on theory, we know about it. Probably not true. Almost definitely not true. In fact, I'm just going to state for a fact it's not true. But the only reason the theory exists is because he gives off the vibe of someone who might be an immortal skin-changing vampire. So for that reason, he kind of does belong in spooky. Roose Bolton is the ultimate spooky. Now, Ramsay's less spooky than Roose. Roose is more understated and mysterious. Ramsay's scary in like an explicitly... Well, he is a serial killer. He's a rapist, he's a murderer, he's a torturer, he's like Saddam Hussein's sons, he's just a complete nutcase who has free reign to butcher people because of how powerful his father is. He is, just gross and brutal and terrifying, but not spooky. Spooky's not the word. I think he does belong in but he doesn't belong in spooky. Okay, 2 more characters. One, Tyrek. I believe the same person who nominated Daemon for being gay also nominated Tyrek, saying it's spooky that he can turn into a horse. So we're putting that dead joke into a Homelander bruh face. And then finally we have my 5-minute patch face creation, which is extremely cursed. Oh, I don't like anything about this. I guess it fits for patch face, right? So at the very least, patch face is a witless, creepy jester dressed in motley, bells clanging and ringing as he runs, saying all kind of weird, creepy songs and phrases because his mind is gone because he survived a shipwreck. That in itself is already kind of creepy, just this creepy jester who just has all these bizarre sayings and poems and stuff. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that he's a water wight, that he's literally resurrected and he's basically a zombie, or that his sayings are prophetic. For some reason he has visions of the future and all of his weird, creepy songs are actual like glimpses into the future. They're like, it's like green seeing, it's like dragon dreams, or maybe he's hiding his power level in some way. But he is I think he does belong in spooky. It would have been great to see him in the show. Oh, that Melisandre vision, was it Melisandre where he's like got like blood around his mouth, or he's like sitting on a bunch of skulls or something? I don't know, but I don't really know what the plans are for Patchface. But I'm gonna add Haven. I'm looking for a Haven picture. How spooky am I? I'll let the chat decide. How spooky am I? You know what? Maybe I should go in spooky for all my broken promises. There we go, spooky. Alright, and what would be truly spooky before I wrap up this live stream is, who wants a face reveal? I'll wait for the chat to respond to that. If there's a single no, I'm dipping. If there's a single no, I'm ending this stream as soon as possible. I'm sorry, but I've got a bunch of people in response to the face reveal. Me, do it, me, and then no is just the first one. So someone said no, so I'm sorry, I can't do it. No, listen, there will be a face reveal when I hit 100k subs. I will, however, give you a compromise. I will give you a face reveal in the form of fan art. Someone on my Patreon Discord drew a picture of me. There's a dumb picture of me on the Discord, and they drew it. So you can have fan art of me. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Beautiful. Shout out to Key, the artist Key, for drawing that for me. And without out the way, I think I'm going to end this live stream. Like and subscribe. But yes, if anyone cares about Witcher, stay tuned for Witcher. And of course, there'll be more Song of Ice and Fire coming, because that's my bread and butter, baby. Okay, goodbye. Farewell. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my patrons, in particular, Andre, Caden, Coleshot, Dev Cole, Itchaboy, Elias, and Pioneer. See you next time.